Dandadan, episode 2. That's a space alien, ain't it? We're just gonna jump right in. So in the last episode, we ended with Ken revealing his name and Momo realizing that he shares the same name as her celebrity crush. And we have a UFO explode behind her as we zoom in on her facial expression. And I freaking love that. The UFO exploding was anime original. It doesn't actually explode. So I like that nice little touch because it's just a simple thing, but it just emphasizes Momo's reaction. But now her reaction is different. Now that it's settled in, Momo curls into a fetal position basically and starts screaming because she doesn't want him to have the same name as her celebrity crush. But because her attention is on his name rather than on him, he's no longer holding back his curse. And so he starts morphing into Turbo Granny. And so she slams him into a wall with her psychic powers. And then we just have more banter between the two where she says, "You are no longer going to use that name." He's just kind of like, "But it's my name. Why can't I use it?" He's just like, "You're not going to be able to use it. From now on, because you like the occult, your name is Okarun." So his name is now Okarun. I kept saying Okarun in the past because I've always thought that it was Okarun, but I guess it's pronounced Okarun. So yeah, our character is now named Okarun. And so they're just walking through the city, and we just have like more funny banter between the two of them. We have one point where she's kind of like poking fun at him, and as we see in the first episode, she like exaggerates her body motions when she does that. So there's one moment where she's like leaning right close behind him as she's mocking him, and he farts right in her face. Almost like, "Let's go back to my house. We can meet with my grandma. She's a super powerful exorcist. She should be able to do something about this curse so that you don't have to constantly be fighting it, and I don't have to constantly be holding it back for you." So they make their way to Momo's house, and Momo's house is pretty much like a shrine. There's a torii gate entrance. And Momo starts walking in, and Okarun goes to walk in, but as soon as he passes the torii gate, he starts lighting up on fire. And it's because there is a talisman attached to the gate that prevents any evil spirits from coming in. So Momo has to use her psychic powers to throw him into a nearby river and basically douse the flames out. And she's like, "Okay, well, I'll just rip the talisman out so that you can come in." So she rips the talisman out, and we have just this funny moment where Okarun is just kind of like scared, and he's like cautiously putting his hand through the torii gate, and then eventually he kind of walks through and he's kind of like screaming because he's scared that he's going to light up on fire again. And as soon as he goes through the torii gate, Momo just does the baseball umpire safe. And it's these little moments, these little character moments from the two of them, which is what makes them so great. I love the banter between the two of them. Like even here, where they're kind of strangers just helping each other out because they both find themselves in this terrible situation. I just like the back and forth between the two of them, and we're going to be getting more of that. Especially for anyone who's read the manga, we get way more of that. So I'm looking forward to seeing that in the anime. But eventually, they go into her house, and Momo calls for her grandma, but her grandma's not there. So Momo invites him up to her room so that she can change. And of course, she tells Okarun, stay out while I change. But as soon as she starts doing that, he starts morphing into Turbo Granny. So he bursts into her room just as she's in the middle of changing, and she starts yelling at him and stuff. Basically, she forces him, "Okay, just stay here with your back towards me, face the wall, don't peek. That way I can still keep an eye on you and keep the curse at bay while I change." And Momo changes into her new outfit. And here's like another thing that I love about the series is that we see a lot of this in the manga where it's not just Momo, but all the characters wear different outfits. There is no set outfit that everybody wears all the time. Everyone wears different outfits, other than their school uniform, of course. But when we see them outside of school, their clothes are constantly changing. And I know this is just like a small little detail, but it's a detail that makes it seem more realistic because it's not like, cartoons or anything where you see the same characters wearing the same clothes over and over and over, day after day after day. Like, what are they? Are they like Mr. Rogers where they just have the same shirt and same pants and they just have a bunch of duplicates? No, instead, Momo especially, we will see her in constantly different types of clothes, but same for all the other characters. And I know I'm just kind of like rambling on this, but it's just a nice touch that is in the manga. And yeah, I'm glad that they're keeping it with the anime because they could have easily just have the characters wearing the same clothes all the time and just save on animation. But the fact that they're going to be changing is good because, again, it's more faithful. So eventually she changes. She gives Okarun some clothes, and she's like, it's ladies' wear, but better than just running around in a tattered up shirt and underwears. So he starts changing, and as he's changing, Momo starts kind of poking fun at him by saying, "Hey, Turbo Granny says that she took your wiener, right? So what's down there? Is there anything down there?" And she's like, "Let me see." And of course, Okarun's like freaking out because he doesn't want to show a woman that he barely knows his privates. He's like, well, it shouldn't matter because there's nothing there, right? And he goes and he looks for himself and he starts screaming like, "Oh my god, there is nothing there." And Momo just keeps saying that she wants to look. And eventually the banter leads to Okarun saying, "This is your fault. You're the one that challenged me to go to the cursed place where Granny got me." And Momo basically says, "Well, I didn't want to do any of this in the first place because I wasn't interested in your occult stuff. Like, your UFO things." That's when we get a moment of character from Okarun, where he explains that the reason why he talked to Momo is because he didn't want to blow his chance. This is the first time anyone has ever gone out of their way to talk to him. And, we get like a flashback to the first episode where she basically stood up for him in front of bullies. This is the first time anyone has ever done something like that. And so he thought, well, this is my chance to make a friend for the first time. No one has ever wanted to be my friend. Now this girl is standing up for me, and she makes like a throwaway line about like, "Hey, what are you reading?" "Oh, paranormal stuff. That's interesting." And then she leaves. So Aquaman's like, "This is my chance." And so he's kind of down in the dumps about the fact that, he got into the situation because he just wanted to make a friend. He didn't want to waste his chance. And he explains that once we deal with this, you can go back to ignoring me and pretending that, we never met, and I won't ever bother you again. And Momo basically says that's your problem. You assume how others feel and jump to conclusions without asking. And she basically crawls up to him because he's still down in the dumps. We just have like an interesting moment where she kind of pokes him. And I just like how like when she's poking him, she even goes poke poke. And she basically just tells him like, "Hey, don't say that I can ignore you." So basically telling him that even when this is all said and done, we can still be friends. And then Okarun calls her ugly and basically says, "You bluntly recite other people's weaknesses to their faces. Like, that's really mean." And they just have like a screaming match at each other, but it's done in like a comical way. And again, like I freaking love just seeing these two interact with each other and their banter, especially like the way their relationship is now in the manga. Seeing how it was in the beginning is so freaking interesting. I don't know if I want to. No, I'm not going to say anything for anyone who hasn't read the manga. I don't want to spoil anything. But just going back and seeing how their relationship started to what it is now, it's nice because like I haven't gone back and read the series in like over a year. So even though I remember how things went, it's still kind of interesting to see how they were back then when they first met to how they are now. But eventually, their little banter is broken up by the doorbell ringing. Okarun at first is like, "Oh, maybe that's your grandma." Mom was like, "No, like we have two types of doorbells. One is for like actual guests and stuff like that, and then the other one is like for evil spirits. A doorbell to let us know that there's danger out there." And so they go and they peek, and they just see this weird shadow on the other side of the door, but they can't really see what it is. And that's when Momo notices that the talisman, the ward that was on the Torii gate that she took down to allow Okarun to get in, is sitting on the table. And so there's nothing protecting evil spirits from getting into their shrine, from getting into the house. And so Momo's like, "Okay, well, what we got to do is we got to put the talisman back up." And Okarun's like, "No, we can't do that because if we do, I'm going to burn because I'm inside." So they're like, "Okay, we'll sneak out the back. We'll go out towards the entrance. You'll exit the premises, and then I'll put the talisman back up so that the evil spirit that's here knocking on our door will burn up." And so they go to do that. But as soon as they do, they realize that the sky starts darkening. We see that the sky starts kind of glitching, and then the wall boxes them in. And there's no explanation in the anime for what this is. It's going to appear later on, like an actual description. But basically what this is called the empty space. And the empty space is something that appears in the manga frequently. And basically what it is it's kind of like an alternate dimension that aliens are able to summon. And this ultimate dimension looks exactly like whatever area they bring it up in. So, for example, since the empty space is being brought up into Momo's house, the empty space is going to look exactly like Momo's house, exactly like Momo's property, except everyone except the victims are still there and the sky darkens. So if this happens in, say, a city, whatever section of the city the empty space comes in, will the sky will darken and all the people that are there will disappear, except for whatever victims the aliens want to get. And whatever damage happens in the empty space doesn't happen in the real world. So kind of see it as almost like a pocket dimension mimic of the area. So yeah, the empty space appears and they find themselves completely surrounded and there's nothing that they can do. And I love this little moment that they have in the anime where as the empty space is forming and kind of blocking and boxing the two characters in and darkening the area, the color saturation changes. So now instead of being like really bright and colorful, the anime starts becoming more and more saturated until eventually it enters black and white mode. And I thought this was a really cool touch. Like it's just a small little detail, but I love the fact that once they're in the empty space, it becomes black and white. And it turns out that it's not an evil spirit, it's actually an alien. And it's actually a specific alien. It's the Flatwood alien, which is actually, I don't want to say it's a real thing, because, you know, whether you believe in aliens or not, but the Flatwood is an actual, like, quote-unquote UFO or alien sighting, I should say, that happened in the early 50s. Basically, it kind of looks like a humanoid owl, sort of. Here, it looks like a mix between the humanoid owl and the giant sumo wrestler. So, yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. But our two characters, they start getting weakened, they start bleeding from their noses, and they realize that in this empty space, there's like this poisonous gas that the alien is sending out. And they have to get rid of this alien somehow. But they can't put the talisman out because there's no exit. They're locked in here. And if they put the talisman up, then Okarun is going to die as well as the alien. So we have this pretty funny moment where the alien throws a punch at the two of them and they both dive out of the way and the punch hits the wall and kind of cracks it a bit. And then Okarun and Momo just stare at each other and they just kind of share a moment. And then it immediately cuts to them sprinting full speed as the alien is chasing after them. It's like something straight out of like a Scooby-Doo moment. But I freaking love this. I love their expression as they're running. I love the way they run. And we even just have like a cool moment where the alien swipes at them and misses, but the force of the swipe is enough to have them sailing through the air. Like just the wind that comes from the miss slap sends them flying. And so they basically realize, okay, well, I can't be fighting against the alien as well as holding Okarun's curse back at the same time. Like we got to do something. And so Okarun comes up with an idea. He's like, is there a way for you to release the curse but still keep my head on straight? In the sense of don't let the curse take over my mind. Release the curse so that I can use the powers, but I'm still in control. I need you to do that. And Momo's kind of like, I just learned about these powers just last night. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off. But Okarun's like, I believe you can do it, so please try. And the Flatwood alien basically sends a kick. It's coming straight towards the two, and a bunch of smoke kicks up, and then we see Okarun transformed to his Turbo Granny mode, which looks really badass. And he basically saves himself and Momo from the kick. And his personality kind of changes. Like he's a lot more like, empathetic. His voice changes. And basically he starts sounding more and more like Ken Takakura. And of course this sets off like Momo. She's like, stop talking like that. Like, stop being so aloof and cool. I need you to go back to being like the goofy, lonely, occult nerd. Okarun decides, okay, time to go face the alien, and the alien tries to smash Okarun with his hand, and Okarun ends up biting off all of the fingers in one of the alien's hands. But immediately after doing that, he starts coughing up blood because his body like can't hold on to this for too long, and eventually he depowers, and Momo has to use her telekinetic abilities to slingshot Okarun away from getting crushed by the alien. And he basically explains that, you know, my body can't hold on to the power for too long. It feels like my body is like burning and breaking into pieces. But Momo's like, I need you to transform one more time. I have an idea. And the idea is that the Flatwood alien is acting like a sumo wrestler. So all we got to do is we just got to get him to touch his hand to the ground and he loses. And that's how we defeat him. Because in sumo, if a sumo wrestler touches their hand to the ground, they lose the match. So they believe if we can get him to touch his hand to the ground, he'll lose this fight and he'll disappear. So she gets Okarun to transform into Turbo Granny one more time. He rushes full speed at the alien and basically does his classic headbutt attack. I say classic because, I'm all caught up with the manga, but this is a move he does a lot of times in the manga, where he basically runs full speed and he throws himself like a torpedo at his enemies and just like headbutts them. And so he does this to the firewood alien and takes off one of its legs. And as that's happening, Momo uses her psychic powers to like force him down. And the alien touches the ground, his hand, and his hand starts disappearing. But then all of a sudden, legs sprout and he rights himself back up again. And he sends Momo smashing into the wall right between the torii gate. She gets really pissed off because she's like, "You're cheating and I hate cheaters." And with her weakened, Okarun starts transforming into Turbo Granny only without being in control. And all of a sudden, he depowers and returns back to human form. And it turns out that even though she just got hit with a huge attack, Momo's still able to keep his powers at bay. Like, she's focusing all her attention on him. And Okarun watches as this alien just starts beating the crap out of Momo. Like, he just starts machine gun punching her into the wall and just pushing her deeper and deeper and deeper into the wall. Like, it's kind of like DBZ, where like she's in the middle of this crater and this alien is just punching her deeper and deeper into the crater. And there's nothing Okarun can do about it. And Momo, rather than like defending herself, she's just keeping her attention on Okarun so she can hold the curse at bay. And Okarun eventually like begs her, like, "Stop protecting me, protect yourself, release the curse on me, and I'll try to hold it back and try to fight this." And Momo is basically like, no, I got this. It turns out that this was her plan all along. Because the alien kept punching her deeper and deeper and deeper into the crater, she's now technically outside of the torii gate. So what she does is she remains within the crater, uses her psychic powers to pull Okarun to her, and then she basically hugs him, and then she uses her other hand to bring the talisman and slap it onto the torii gate. And because her and Okarun they're still within the empty space, but they're technically past the torii gates, they are now, Okarun is now no longer going to be affected by the talisman. And so the talisman lights up, it ends up burning the alien, and we just have the two of them like holding each other as the alien burns and the empty space starts getting destroyed. And then all of a sudden the color comes back and the two of them are still hugging each other, and they look and they see that the shrine is perfectly intact. Because like I said before, the empty space is basically like a mimicry in a pocket dimension. So anything that happens in the empty space doesn't affect anything that happens in the real world. So even though her house got destroyed in the empty space, her house in the real world is still okay. And Momo's like super excited. And because her attention is off of Okarun, he starts transforming into Turbo Granny. And she immediately has to like stop her celebration to hold the curse back, and is basically saying like, "Please let me have this moment, Okarun." And then that's when she notices his hair, and she's like, "Wow, your hair looks a lot better now, though I did like your granny perm more." And she starts laughing, and then she passes out. And because she passes out, she's no longer able to hold the curse at bay, and so Okarun transforms into Turbo Granny and hovers over Momo, and that's how the episode ends. I freaking love this. We're gonna see Granny. We're gonna see Granny Ayase in the next episode, and I can't wait to see people's reactions to that. Let's just say that I've never been into gilfs, but this series changed my mind on that. But no, Granny is awesome. All the characters in this are awesome. Momo's grandma's awesome. Freaking Momo, Okarun. Without spoiling anything, the cat character that you see in the post-credit theme song is awesome. So I can't wait for more people to watch this, and hopefully you'll dive into the manga after this, because it is a freaking amazing manga series. But yeah, in regards to this episode, I loved it. I thought it was awesome. I think the big selling point, which the manga does a really good job, but the anime seems to do, I don't want to say it seems to do a better job, but the adaptation, I guess just because of the animation as well as the voice acting, the relationship between Okarun and Momo, like you get to see it more I guess because again, you get to see it like in motion, and you also get to hear like their voices rather than just reading their words. But the banter and the relationship between the two of them is freaking awesome. Like I love it. I think that's the biggest selling point, is not necessarily just the crazy action scenes and the aliens and demons and all that stuff, even though all that's cool. But it's these two characters and their relationship together, and like how their friendship builds and things like that, and just the banter and stuff. It's great. I love the anime decisions that they made in this, from the desaturation of the colors to going full black and white when they enter the empty space. Like all that's really cool. I had a little bit of my doubts when the anime was first revealed. Not because I had anything against the studio, but like when I saw the first few screenshots, I was like, oh, okay. The characters look more like simplified versions of their manga counterparts, which makes sense because manga is always going to have more detailed art than the anime, but it seemed a bit too simplified, so I was a little bit wary. But actually seeing it in action, actually seeing the episode for myself, I think this anime studio freaking nailed it. Like I couldn't have been more wrong. Like they have done an amazing job with this series, and I'm not sure if any other animation studio would have done as good of a job. So I'll just say huge props to Science Saru. They freaking nailed this. You can see in not only just the animation, but just all the little things, like with the coloring. Like the coloring, it's like such a simple thing, but it goes the extra mile. They've nailed the character interactions. They did a really good job picking the voice actors and actresses. Again, I'm listening to this in the Japanese dub, so I haven't heard this in the English dub yet. I'll probably do that like next time I have free time. But the characters, the actors and actresses are really nailing down the characters. Like I can't gush about this series enough. I think everything they've done is perfect. I would give episode 1 and episode 2 like just a straight 10 out of 10. There is not one thing they've done that I don't like. Everything has just been amazing. Yeah, I couldn't be more happy with Science Saru and what they've done with the series. As a huge fan of the manga, I think it's in good hands with them, and this anime has been amazing so far. Perfect 10 out of 10 for me. And this episode continues at 10 out of 10. So there you go. There's episode 2 of Dandadan. That's a space alien, ain't it? It's amazing. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't already. Pick up the series, and at some point in your life, please read the manga. Whether you want to wait until after the anime is done before you dive in, or if you're going to just do it now, at some point in your life, pick up the manga and read through it, because it is one of the best manga series I've ever read. And I think this anime is doing an amazing job. And if it continues this up, this might be one of the greatest anime series ever. It has the opportunity to reach that, in my opinion. There you go. I'm kind of rambling at this point. There's Dan and Dan. Hope you enjoyed. Hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again, and I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.